All right, folks, what is going on? Back with another video, and today I want to talk about my experience with Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo. Now, I've seen videos out lately talking about this game. Some people saying that it's broken, and I 100% believe it. The game is absolutely broken. And for a guy like me who likes to play single player, it's a nightmare to play this game in some instances. But this game is a one of the very high top tier, basically one of the top tier competitive games still to this day, even though the game is almost 30 years old. I want to give you my perspective on this game because I love this game. I love this game. And for somebody like me, I want to give you a little bit of background of this game. Also, I'm going to give you some avenues where you could play this game and actually have a good time if you like to play single player. So I'm just going to start off with this. I remember back in about 93, 94, I was about 12 years old. Game came out. I was already playing the Super Nintendo version of Street Fighter 2 Turbo. And I love that game. That's an excellent port of the game, Street Fighter 2 Turbo. And I didn't really get into Super on Street Fighter 2 that much because the game was a little bit slower because I liked the speed of the original Street Fighter 2 Turbo. So I played it a little bit, but it was cool. But when Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo came out, which most people call it Super Turbo now, that game was the game that I wanted to play. And I remember when this game first released around back 93, 94, it was in an arcade near my house. And what I saw amazed me. The game was on this real huge big screen, and the arcade sticks was like 4 feet away from the huge screen. It wasn't your typical arcade cabinet. I'm gonna try to give you a perspective of what it used to look like. I'm trying to have something on the screen to show you what it looks like. But the game was awesome. Big, tall sprites because of the big screen. You got to understand, back in 93, 94, this game was probably on it had to be maybe like a 50 or 55-inch screen back in 94. I mean, that is like unheard of. And I remember when the game came out and I would just stare at the game while other guys played it. Now, I know I wasn't that good at the game because I was just now starting to learn to use the arcade sticks because I was mostly playing controller. But I would play every now and then. But I knew with the attraction that game was bringing, with it being on a big screen, I never really had a chance to play because the older guys would play. So I remember one day my uncle brought me to the mall where the arcade game was, and we were watching people play. But there was one guy playing by himself, and the thing about it was, not too many people was really wanting nobody to play by themselves, but this guy was on a roll. I mean, he was going all the way to the end of the game and he was undefeated. And, playing the arcade version, that's not easy. So my uncle was like, yo, watch this. And he just got finished beating Sagat. And this what blew me away. Once he beat Sagat and Bison was coming up, Bison was taken out by this mysterious character named Akuma. And when I saw that, I was floored. It was one of the biggest gaming moments in my life, and it always sticks to me to this day. And that's when I knew I wanted this game in my home. I wanted to play it. I want to be able to defeat Akuma because that guy got his ass handed to him. Basically, Akuma was no joke. He wasn't playing no games. And my uncle, I think he knew about it, but he didn't say anything. So he just let me sit there and awe and watch the whole entire thing transpire. So that once that happened, that's what stuck with me forever. And I'll always love to see it. Now there's other games out there, even to this day, other Street Fighters that I love playing. I did a video on Street Fighter 6. I love it, but I always will love this game. Now, what I'm going to do, I'm going to give you some thoughts on the current versions of this game that I have. And I want to give you some advice if you want to play single player, because the game is very good competitively. But playing single player, you're going to get whooped if you don't play the right versions of the game. So I'm going to give you a few games that I have. I have 5 of them, 5 versions of this game that you could play if you want to play by yourself. Now, full disclaimer, I'm not adding none of the Hyper Street Fighters, no Ultra Street Fighters. This is straight Super Turbo. If you want to play a version of Super Turbo, or if you want to play Super Street Fighter 2 X, which is basically the Japanese version, I'm going to add those in. So those are the versions I'm going to talk about. Now, I'm not going to talk about the Hyper or the Anniversary editions. or any of that, I will talk about those in a later time. So this is where I'm going to give you my thoughts on this. Now, the first game I want to talk about is probably like the easiest one you can get to, and you could probably get this nowadays pretty easily. You can play the arcade version on the Street Fighter 30th Anniversary Collection. This has Super Turbo on it. Unfortunately, this is the arcade version, and I'm gonna show you some gameplay of me playing it or whatever the case may be. Now, this game is straight a direct port. Is a direct port of the game, and with that being said, you may get past the second round. This game is extremely hard, and I don't know how I did not. I don't know how I did it. I'll just say it like this. I don't know how I did it. I actually got the trophy of beating Super Turbo on this, and I did it back in March, but I don't remember doing it. But nevertheless, I went back. I've done it again. Recently when after I did this, after I was looking this up. And I was like, wow, I did that. But during this game, the game plays very well. It looks really good. But nevertheless, if you want to play this version, have at it. But playing single player, you may get past the third or fourth round. It's not very fun to play. Like I said, this game is basically built for competitive purposes. Now, the next one I want to talk about is one that's also on the PlayStation 2. This version here, I just went back to playing this, and it's actually not that bad. This one here is off the Capcom Classics collection, and the thing about this is a lot of people talk about this version because they say it's kind of glitchy. It has a little bit of problems in it. It's a bad emulation of the arcade version. Now, but what I will say with this, it has its own separate achievements that you want to play. Like you beat somebody, you play with old Sagat, which is, is code to get like the older players and do other things. And with this entire collection, they have all their own separate achievements in the game, which is actually pretty neat. Now, I actually had fun playing this. Now, what I may do, I may play some games off of this, and I may play some Super Turbo off of it, because this was actually not that bad. I think it kind of got a bad rap, but compared to the 30th anniversary, it's much more competitive if you want to play single player. So you will have a pretty good time with this game, in my opinion. I think it's much more easier to digest. Now, the other game I want to talk about, the third game I want to talk about, is the HD Remix. Now, why am I bringing up the HD Remix? Now, this is not as accessible as you would think. It's locked away from it's locked away to the PS3 and the Xbox 360, very similar to Marvel vs. Capcom 2. But this game plays very well. It looks weird when you are playing this game because it's the HD remix. The sprites look kind of buffed up, bulky. The art style is different, but the game plays a lot like the Dreamcast version of this game, which we will talk about shortly. The thing about this game is it is built from the Dreamcast version up, but it just has different visuals. Now there's a lot of different things you can change with the game. Some dip switches you can change. Some animations are a little bit different, and I think it is actually a pretty good version of the game. Now you can go through this game as well and complete it based on a difficulty level. It gives you a pretty competitive challenge as well. It's not that bad. It's not extremely hard like the arcade version. Well, with that being said, you should have a good time if you play with this game. You should. Like I said, it's not as accessible unless you have a 360 or a PS3, but that is a version of Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo that you could play. Now, I'm going to jump over to the more, I'm not going to say they're the harder to find versions or whatever the case may be, and but they're much more obscure. And what I would say with this one is, the first one I'm going to talk about is, if you want this game, you're going to pay a lot of money. This is the Dreamcast version. This is Super Street Fighter 2 X, Grandmaster Challenge for match and service. Now, this game is absolutely phenomenal. This game has all the balances fixed from the arcade version, and it is much more easier to digest if you want to play. Um, if you want to play, by yourself, single player. Now, when you have the other versions, let's say like the arcade version or the HD remix, which is built off of this version, when you have those, you may be content. But if you're a diehard person like me, and you really love this game, I highly recommend you getting this. Now, there's other ways and means of getting instead of getting an authentic version, because this version runs up to $300+. So I don't expect you to go out and play that much. But I will say, if you can get your hands on it and play it away off your Dreamcast, it is a great version of the game. It has other perks in it, other dip switch codes that you can use, where you can play different versions of Akuma or Gookie, however they call them in Japan. It is a phenomenal package of a game. I think that the other ones are just based off a straight arcade port, but I think this is one of the first that are this is one of the first that's actually got a legit full package consoleized version. And I'll say that because when you look at the other versions, like there's one on the Saturn, there's one on the 3DO, those are kind of bare bones, but this one actually fixed some things. So I actually really, really love this version of the game. Now, I want the 3DO version before I get to the last version of that I have. I am really tempted to buy and purchase a 3DO just for Super Turbo on the 3DO. I know it's a little more bare bones because it's not as powerful, but I think about getting it. I think I'm going to get it because I love this game, and the 3DO is a little expensive, but I mean, hey, if I paid for a Grandmaster Challenge for the Dreamcast, I can buy a 3DO. I mean, I got enough consoles already. I mean, why not? Last but not least, I want to talk about this game. This is probably the best version that you can get that will give you the fairest, most balanced a chance to go through this game and completing it. And as far as getting to Akuma and beating him, this is the Street Fighter Collection on the Saturn. I think you also get this on the PlayStation as well. This game here plays really good. I'm debating if this game plays better than the Dreamcast version because the Saturn it just seems like it's built for these type of games. And I've been playing this on my CRT, and playing this game on my old school TV, it feels like a dream. I talked about playing Marvel vs. Capcom 2 on the Dreamcast on my CRT a while back, and that felt beautiful. Now, don't get me wrong, I love flat screen TVs. I love playing, all these games, but going back to play on a CRT, the lack of input lag, the fluidity of the game is beautiful. Now, this game will give you a very good competitive challenge. I mean, this is probably like the best you're going to get as far as playing Super Turbo. This game looks good. It plays good. It looks phenomenal if you have it on a CRT. Even if you're using an upscaler, it is phenomenal. I love every bit of this game. And this is probably my favorite version to play out of all of them. Now, I am going to go back and play on the PlayStation 2 version that's on Capcom Classics Collection, which I actually have fun playing that. And the Dreamcast version always have a special part of me because it fixes a lot of things. This one is not as balanced. It is basically a consoleized version of the arcade port. And what it does is it gives you a fairly good chance to compete and play the game in the best visuals of the arcade version with more of being at home style of gameplay where it's not out there to take your quarter. So I think all 5 of these that I mentioned are great if you really want to get the game. Now, there's other ways you could play it. I think you could play it on Steam as well. You could play it on Street Fighter 6. But the problem is you're going to get this version of the game regardless. You're going to get the arcade version of the game, and you're basically be playing this version because this game, the arcade version of the game, it shows no mercy. If you want to get a better competitive balance, you may want to get the Japanese version, which is Grandmaster Challenge. That one is a little bit more, better, more one single player friendly. but it's a bug in the Super Turbo that it is quite literally unplayable. And you may have to. I think there's some way you could play with Vega or whatever to get through the ladder. But to me, I like playing with players that I want to play with. I like to play with Ken because basically me and him share the same first name, but that's another story for another day. It's kind of weird, but you know what I mean. But like I said, there's other ways to play the arcade version of this game. But to me, if you really want, I think this is probably the best way to do it. Get you a Saturn, get you a PlayStation 3 or PlayStation 1, get the Street Fighter collection, and you'll be able to play the game at a high level and actually be more competitive to play against Akuma. So it feels like you complete the game instead of going, losing all the time and you never make it to him, or you'll be in a situation where you never make it past the third battle. So it's kind of weird. So let me know what you guys think. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. This is my experience. I love Street Fighter 2 or Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo. This is probably my favorite fighting game out of all of them. I've been yearning to get an arcade version of this game, and I got it, but the consoleized version just makes it more competitive and it makes it more fun to play. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. I'm going to get up out of here. Thank you guys. If you made it this far, hit the like button. I really appreciate it. And I'll see you guys on the next one. All right, y'all. Y'all take it easy and y'all take care. Peace.